Right now, new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports are now in place. We'll look at how this may impact you. Plus, the push to ban formaldehyde from hair straighteners. Hundreds of women in Georgia say the chemical may have harmed them. So what's being done about it? We'll talk about that. And it's not often that you see a red moon. We'll have everything you need to know about the early morning lunar eclipse. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite experts in to give us their take, their expertise on all the big stories that are happening for today. And we start off with our top story today. President Donald Trump's 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports are now in effect. The policy looks to level the playing field for U.S. manufacturers, but some worry that the move will drive up prices for the everyday American. The European Union and Canada have already announced their own tariffs in retaliation. Here's what the president had to say about that on Wednesday.
Whatever they charge us, we're charging them. If they charge us 25 or 20% or 10% or 2% or 200%, then that's what we're charging them. There's nothing more fair than that.
All right, joining me now to talk about how this could impact you is Cole Porter. He is the president and CEO of Porter Steel in Lilburn. Cole, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Chesley.
All right, these tariffs were announced last month and now are taking effect. How have you been preparing for this?
I think preparing is probably an interesting word. I think it's more reactionary. We have to understand exactly what's happening as it comes out and then be able to react to those things. I think there's, we all kind of heard the president talk about tariffs in his campaign, and most of our industry is actually in support of some level of leveling the playing field in trade, because there have been a lot of unfair things, with other countries. But it's all in the implementation, right? And so those things can be very drastic and can really affect our bottom line when they hit. So
there are some predictions that the price of cars could go up, building homes could become a little bit more expensive. Who do you think this is going to hit the most when it comes to these tariffs?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because steel is a global industry and it's really in everything. If you think about whether it's your cell phone, your computer, your car, the building that we're building, for instance, I think that unique in the construction industry is that we bid work and we sign our name on contracts well before we actually produce the product, right? So we lock in that price. And so for me, I've got 9 or 10 months worth of contracts that I've already committed on price to. And so when the price of steel goes up, it goes directly into my margin. And so that affects my ability to invest in my people and invest in growth.
Right.
Whereas a washing machine or a car, if that part goes up and the overall cost goes up, the consumer can choose to hold off on purchasing that item or decide to spend more. So really, that's where we kind of feel in the construction industry in particular. But I think it's going to affect everybody for at least a short time.
Okay. You mentioned two things earlier I want to get your take on. First, the thing is the benefits to the company. You said there could be some benefits here. Explain that for me, first of all.
Well, we have to look at the tariffs as a national, global issue. I can't just look at my small business and say, what's good for me today, right? We are a country of lots of different people, and so it'd be selfish for me just to do that. There are fabricators that we know that do work in the North, right? And it's very common for Canadian companies to be able to outbid them because they are able to produce it for less. So this will help them. This has hurt us already. We've seen 15% increases in the cost of steel in a lot of different shapes. So, it's a give and take for sure. My argument would be that we just need to focus on the implementation. I actually wrote a letter to the president and had it delivered by a congressman saying, hey, we support tariffs like this. We want fair trade. But here are some unintended consequences for our industry and the construction industry with my backlog and the increase of materials. I would suggest that we do a 1% per month until we get to the place we need to be, so that we, as the small businesses, can adjust our pricing to catch up, and it's not an overnight change that immediately affects our profit margins.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, you talked about implementation, how you would roll it out differently, but there you go. You just said how you would do that. Is there anything else you would change or do something differently that has already been done?
Well, I know the president knows a lot about construction. I know he knows a lot about business. And so I have to assume that he knows some things. I also know that he knows a lot more, he has a lot more information access than I do, right? I see some of the policies that he puts out there, and I see the end result. And so I have to have a little bit of trust that maybe he knows something I don't, and that on this implementation that maybe we're just trying to get something out of this, and that it's going to resolve. I don't think we were ever going to put troops in the Panama Canal, but that was talked for a little while, and then it seemed to be we got something that we wanted. So,
Yeah.
we don't know the whole picture, and we don't know what we're trying to get, being out here. But I'm hoping that this is a very short-lived, chaotic moment, but it does need less chaos.
Yeah.
Businesses need stability. And so anytime we are changing tariffs day to day and new news is coming out, that's not good for business.
Yeah.
This will be really good for the steel industry on the stock market, the American steel mills, the big corporations. But for the small business fabricators like me, who are having to just deal with the price increases, we need stability, and we need a clear vision going forward.
Yeah. All right, Cole Porter, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Give us your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care. We're going to talk more about these tariffs and the critical meeting between the United States and Canada with Alice Barr coming up, so you want to stick around for that. All right, let's get to some other top stories today. Right now, educators in Georgia are reacting to federal cuts to the Department of Education. About 1,300 employees, or roughly half of the agency's workforce, is being laid off. The head of the Georgia Association of Educators says the move could be devastating for our state.
An average of 16% of each district's funding comes from federal sources. While we are being reassured that there will be no program cuts, when you cut half of the staff in a federal department, then obviously there is work that has been being done to ensure that our students receive the resources they need. Something is going to fall through the cracks.
Now, the average funding, or federal funding for Georgia's schools, is about $2,200 per student. All right, let's move on to South Fulton County, South Fulton, where a condo complex known for crime and safety issues caught fire overnight. This is just the latest fire to hit the Camelot condos on Old National Highway. It is at least the third large fire that hit that complex in the last 5 years. The latest fire destroyed 12 units. Everyone got out safely, but it's likely that they lost everything. The people we spoke with at the complex today were very frustrated, saying they're tired of waiting for something to change.
A lot of foolishness that goes on, but that's the history of Camelot. But at the end of the day, these are our homes.
When you see another building burned down and we know that we have no insurance, and now people are once again without homes, they're losing everything, it makes you more angry.
The Red Cross is helping people who lost their belongings in that fire. We're working to learn what actually caused it. Let's take a look at our forecast for today. We got some changes coming. The last couple of days we had plenty of sunshine around the forecast area. Now the clouds are in place. We are looking at mostly cloudy skies for today. Chance for some showers to roll in. It's a 30 to 40% chance that we could see or even hear a rumble of thunder or two. South of the city is where it could be strong to severe, meaning those thunderstorms could pack some gusty winds. 75 degrees for the high on Friday. We have an 11Alive weather impact alert for Saturday night going into Sunday morning. We're going to watch a cold front, a powerful one, move through our area that could bring in some strong to severe thunderstorms. And when we say strong to severe thunderstorms, could pack everything from gusty winds to hail to even tornadoes in our area, something that we're paying very close attention to. As we get closer, of course, we'll be able to pinpoint the timing of this. But right now, Saturday night into Sunday morning is when you need to be weather aware. Make sure you get our 11Alive app and make sure you have all the warnings that you need checked off for your phone so you can get those warnings sent to you. Behind that front, we're going to cool down. 63 degrees will be the high temperature on Monday, but at least we'll have the sunshine and heat back to the 70s by the middle of next week. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the show. A critical meeting is set today between the U.S. and Canada as the global trade war heats up. Meanwhile, President Trump is defending mass firings of federal workers. Joining me now to talk all about this is Washington NBC correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, let's get started with the possibility of a government shutdown that's looming over us. Is Congress anywhere close to passing a spending bill?
Good morning. Not particularly. We took a step back from where we were yesterday because the House had approved a short-term 6-month funding bill, but we learned from the Senate's top Democrat. He says that there are not enough votes among his membership, that they're not going to support this because they are blaming Republicans for drafting that that short-term funding measure without any input from Democrats. And they're proposing instead a clean 1-month extension. House Speaker Mike Johnson, though, really has not to this point entertained anything other than that bill that his members narrowly passed this week, essentially daring Senate Democrats to oppose it, and he thinks then take the blame for a shutdown. 8 Democrats would have to vote yes for this thing to pass because one Republican already said he's a no. And Democrats have been very clearly, we've been talking about this, they've been wrestling with the tension between wanting to seize this moment to take a stand against all the Trump administration's rapid changes and not wanting to risk further hurting federal workers and American citizens with a shutdown. Right now, very unclear if there is any common ground to be found between now and midnight tomorrow night when the shutdown would take effect.
Ooh, man, I hope it doesn't happen, but we'll see. We'll see, Alice. Yeah. Global trade war is heating up, right? We've been talking about that as well. What does Trump's administration look to get out of this meeting with Canada today?
Yeah, so this is being billed as an opportunity to kind of step back from the brink and for cooler heads to prevail and try to unwind what has been just an escalation on either side of, okay, you're going to do that, I'm going to do this, tit for tat for tit for tat. So if that happens, that would be great and could bring down the temperature between the U.S. and Canada. But then I think ultimately the hope would be that would kind of set a tone and maybe have the Trump administration and its allies that have been going back and forth all around step down. Now, that is belied by the fact that President Trump just made the threat to put 200% tariffs on EU imports from EU of European wine, of champagne, of alcohol coming from the European Union. So that is not a step back from the brink. But again, the hope that what happens between the U.S. and Canada could start to wind things in the other direction.
Okay, and it continues to see, like we continue to see Elon Musk continue these big-time job cuts. Now the Democrats want to talk to him. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was an oversight hearing in the House yesterday that raised some noise because Elon Musk was not there. This is a Department of Government Efficiency DOGE oversight hearing. And some of the Democrats on the committee were saying, hey, if Elon Musk is so confident that he's finding waste, fraud, and abuse in this, sort of audit and this slash and burn of all these federal agencies, then why wouldn't he come here and talk about it? And then they accused him of wanting to go out and privatize Social Security and things like that, they say, are why they don't think he wants to appear for that hearing and to talk.
All right, Alice, really appreciate your insight. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks.
All right. Set your alarm, folks. Yep, because you have a chance to watch a red moon, or the moon turned red, right? That's because we have a full lunar eclipse taking place tomorrow morning, but you're going to have to get up early if you want to catch it. Joining me now to talk all about it is Ernie Wright from NASA. Good morning to you, Ernie.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Welcome to the show, first of all. Explain to us quickly, what kind of position this has to be in, the moon and the sun to be in, to get this total lunar eclipse.
So this is an alignment where the sun, the earth, and the moon are all in a line, and the moon is entering the earth's shadow. That happens about every 6 months, but for this one, the United States is perfectly situated to see it.
All of the United States will be able to check it out?
All of the United States, even Hawaii and Alaska.
Wow, that's rare. Right?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
We're not going to be in that perfect a position again until 2048.
And here in Atlanta, there's the threat for clouds. But maybe we have some viewers that may try to get out there and try to see between the clouds. Do we need any special equipment for this, or can you just see it with the naked eye?
No, the great thing about a lunar eclipse is that you don't need eclipse glasses, you don't need telescopes or anything, you just need your eyes, and you need a break in the clouds. But the other lovely thing about a lunar eclipse is that it lasts, the total phase lasts for over an hour. So even if it's cloudy, it's worth going out there and waiting for a break in the clouds so you can see that beautiful red moon.
Yeah, it's going to be something to see there if we can see it. We understand that NASA has a mission that's orbiting the moon right now that's taking some incredible detailed pictures and getting some data of our closest neighbor there. So what are we going to learn more about the moon with this latest mission?
That's right. So Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has been in orbit around the moon since 2009. It's creating global maps of the color of the moon, which tells us something about the composition of the surface, and the shape of the moon, which tells us where all the craters are, and that's what produces all those beautiful shadows. But also the radiation environment and temperature changes on the moon. So it's really bringing the moon to life. It's not just a dead rock. There's a lot of interesting things going on there. And it's also helping us to prepare missions that will send people to the moon.
What's our hope there? When you say send people to the moon, I know I got some viewers saying, are we hoping to live there one day, or is it just for the average person to go and visit?
I think for starters, we're learning to live on another planet. We're learning to create a sustainable environment for astronauts to live there. And this is really in preparation for the exploration of the rest of the solar system. The moon is kind of on our front porch. It's the easiest place to go. It's a great place to learn how to live in the difficult environment outside of Earth's atmosphere. And so that's why we want to go there. But we also want to find out about the moon because it remembers everything. The early history of the solar system has been completely erased on the Earth. I mean, weather and tectonics and all kinds of things have completely erased our evidence of what happened early in the solar system on Earth. But the moon has all of that. And so when we go there, we learn about where the Earth came from and the rest of the solar system came from. So it's a good place to go in its own right.
All right, my last question for you real quickly here. What's your best guess or estimate that we would be able to take regular trips to the moon like the everyday person, or even maybe living on the moon? What's your best estimate?
That's tough. I mean, space is very hard. So, we're already in an era where it's possible for people who can afford it to, have trips around the Earth in low Earth orbit. But the moon is 500 times farther away. And so it's a lot harder to get there. I'm thinking maybe not in my lifetime, unfortunately. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Apollo 11 moon landing, and when I was a kid, I thought we'd all be there by now. But it turns out it's very hard to get there. So I think it'll take a little bit of time.
Certainly, we understand that. Thanks a lot, Ernie. Really appreciate that. So just remember, folks, the best time to view this eclipse will be 2:26 a.m. our time here. Ernie, thanks for joining us. Have a great day, my friend. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. The Take, that's what you're watching on 11Alive Plus. We're back right after this. A proposal to ban formaldehyde from hair straightening products is stalled and hosts set deadline for an FDA decision. Now, the U.S. law doesn't require the FDA to approve cosmetics before they're sold, but advocates are pushing for the FDA ban after studies have linked chemical hair straighteners to health risks like cancer. 11Alive's Faith Jesse found hundreds of women in Georgia now filing lawsuits. All right, Faith, have these people that you talked to, have they encountered cancer with this, or is this suit kind of ahead of that?
No, that's exactly right, Chesley. So a lot of the women that we found and uncovered that they have experienced cancer. Hair relaxers have long been used in Black hair culture. It's been marketed to Black women. And back in 2023, there was a Boston University study that showed a potential link to hair relaxers and uterine cancer. Another study called the Sister Study showed a similar link. So what we did some digging. We found hundreds of women across Georgia have filed lawsuits, joining thousands of women across the country, saying that these companies knew about the risk or should have known about the risk, but still they sold these products without any warning.
Faith, how often are these relaxers used? Like, how often do women use these relaxers?
Yeah, so very often. It's a generational thing. Basically, if your grandma used it and your mom used it, you probably used it. According to that same study that I referenced, about 95% of Black women surveyed from that Boston University study, they say that they've all used it at least once. Zena Young is one of the plaintiffs that we spoke with for this story, who is also joining these lawsuits here. She learned how to do the relaxers by herself at the age of 11. She continued using these relaxers into her 40s, and we have a little bit of the conversation with her. Take a look.
I've always had really coarse hair, so again, she would allow us to do our hair. She would, at first, they would use straightening combs and such to do our hair, and then after that, we started getting perms. All of the girls would start getting perms.
Do you remember how old you were when you first started getting relaxed and learned how to do it yourself?
I was probably about 11 years old when I was able to do it myself.
Yeah, so 11 years old, able to put everything together, do it herself. And Chesley, the thing is that culturally it was a norm to make your curls quote unquote more manageable and neat and professional. And right now there isn't much alarm in the black hair space about relaxers. People are still using them every day.
Coming closer to home, my wife used to use relaxers.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I used
now
to use them.
It seems like there's a trend now to go natural. Is that the only alternative, or are there others?
I love that you asked that, because the natural hair movement is coming to the forefront. But we did speak with a beautician, April Story. She is one of the beauticians who decided, I'm not putting perms on my clients anymore. She said that she is suggesting protein treatments, like keratin treatments for her clients. These keratin treatments could, last about 3 months, but there's really no alternative to that relaxer. For those who know relaxers, if you have black hair, you have a curl pattern, if you just use heat, it's straightened. As soon as it gets wet, it's going to curl back up. Those relaxers really change the texture of your hair so it's straight even if it gets wet. So there's not necessarily a complete alternative that will give you the exact same effect. However, like she said, she likes to use these protein treatments. The cost difference though, so if you go to a professional stylist to get a keratin treatment, that could run you over $100, whereas a box of perm costs less than $10 at Walmart or CVS. So people are trying to figure out the alternative, but like you said, Chesley, the natural hair movement, people are really starting to embrace their kinky, coily curls and coils that have long been criticized as unprofessional and not the standard of beauty. But I believe that black women are taking up space and taking that beauty back.
So the culture is changing a little bit, right? And more education is coming out about this. You think a lot of women will start to change over and stop using this product?
Hope. I mean, that's the hope, right? The hope is that the makers of the hair relaxers will put warnings on the products that the formaldehyde in these products will be banned, and that there will be healthier alternatives, and that the education will be distributed through the community, because like I said, right now these studies are out there, but there is no alarm. People are still using these products every day.
All right, Babe Jessie, thanks a lot for bringing us that report and educating us a little bit on these potential cancer-causing products. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chesley.
All right, back with my final take. You're watching The Take. We're back right after this. And before we go, my final take today on an artist that seemingly can do no wrong, right? It's coming under a little bit of fire. We're talking about Beyoncé and her Cowboy Carter tour. It starts soon, but apparently the tour has had some problems selling out arenas. Some fans taking to social media even with complaints, calling the singer greedy, saying those ticket prices are just way too high. Now, this is a shock for me, because most beehivers I know are willing to go broke just to stand next to her. Certainly, she's earned the right to charge whatever she wants, right? With all the great accolades, the philanthropy that she does, rare show reviews. People are willing to pay more to attend the Super Bowl. Why not? For one of the greatest entertainers of our time. Now, I know I'm going to get some flack from the beehivers calling her an entertainer, but I did say she was the greatest of all time. I'm even a little afraid to talk about this, because I know I'm going to come under fire. You can't really say anything about Beyoncé these days, or anything seemingly negative. I'm not saying anything negative at all. Maybe the ticket prices are a little bit high, but I think she's earned the right to do so. Acting skills, she can sing, she can do all kinds of things. So there you have it, beehivers. Don't sting me. Thanks for joining us today. Folks, we say goodbye with your moment of Zen.